Welcome back to yet another of our Advent meditations, an opportunity to talk about and think about the concept of joy. One thing that I wanted to point out yesterday, but I failed to, that I'm going to point out today is you'll probably notice that there is a tree in the background, which indicates that I may or may not have begun to decorate for the upcoming Christmas season. Now, I understand that there are a lot of people who feel that that's something that should not be done. Advent should be Advent, Christmas should be Christmas, and never the two shall meet except in that very thin line between the two dates. I honor that and I respect that. But this year in particular, I got thinking about why do we have to be that hard nosed about things? If decorating for the upcoming season is part of the anticipation and preparation for the upcoming season, and more importantly, in this particular week, if it brings us joy, why not? So enjoy those decorations that are behind me as we begin to walk our way through the concept of joy. Let's start out with a quote from George Bernard Shaw. This is the true joy in life, of being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The being thoroughly worn out before you are thrown on the scrap heap. The being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. And so our hymn choice for today is hymn 344, Lord, Dismiss Us. And it'll give us some time to think more and more about what it means to be used by God in order to bring joy into the world. So let's take a moment and take a deep breath. Lord, dismiss us with thy blessing. Still our hearts with joy and peace. Let us each, thy love possessing, triumph in redeeming grace. Oh, refresh us. Oh, refresh us traveling through this wilderness. Thanks we give and adoration for thy gospel's joyful sound. May the fruits of thy salvation in our hearts and lives abound. Ever faithful to thy truth, may we be found. So that when thy love shall call us, Savior, from the world away, fear of death shall not appall us. Glad thy summons to obey. May we ever reign with thee in endless day. I particularly liked this hymn before I did my investigative work into it. And once I did that, I found that I like this hymn even more. The life of the author shows how to find joy right where we are. John Fawcett was born in Lidget Green, Yorkshire, England, in 1740, and he died in Hebden Bridge, which is also in Yorkshire, in 1817. Became an orphan about the age of 12 and then was apprenticed to a tailor. He never attended school and he was self-taught. Fawcett then became a Christian at around age 16 from hearing sermons preached by George Whitefield, and in turn began preaching himself soon after. In 1765, Fawcett was called to a small, poor Baptist country church in Wainsgate in Yorkshire. 7 years later, he received a call from a large and very influential Carter's Lane Church in London, England. So Fawcett accepted the call, and he preached his farewell sermon. The day of the departure came, and his family belongings were loaded onto carts, but the distraught congregation begged him to stay. In the book In Singers and Songs of the Church, author Joshua Miller tells the story associated with this text. This hymn was said to be written around 1772 to commemorate the determination of its author to remain with his attached people at Wainsgate. The farewell sermon was preached. The wagons were loaded when love and tears prevailed. And Dr. Fawcett sacrificed the attraction of a London pulpit to the affection of his poor but devoted flock. Fawcett continued to serve in Wainsgate and in the nearby village of Hebden Bridge for the remainder of his active ministry. Clearly, he lived his life with a deep understanding that joy is found in helping others and not in the constant struggle to move to better positions in life. From the Gospel of Matthew, in a parable told by Jesus, he says, his master said to him, "Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." So, I have, of course, some questions for you to ponder. Have you ever experienced a time when you were faced with a decision to better your circumstances and instead chose to remain in joy? How would it feel to live a life like is described by our quote from Shaw? And where does the feeling of joy come in the descriptive hymn lyrics that we heard today? And so I invite you once again to hold those questions in your mind as you go about your day or finish up your night, and think about where joy comes from. And then tomorrow, come back together again so we can talk a little bit more about how to contemplate that joy during this Advent season. And until then, take care and God bless.